Nearly 7 years after 9/11, the verdict today in the first test of a legal system made up by President Bush and Senator McCain. Salim Hamdan, Osama bin Laden's chauffeur and bodyguard, charged with plotting 9/11 and bombings of the USS Cole and U.S. embassies in Africa. Our third story tonight, a military commission today found Hamdan guilty of being Osama bin Laden's chauffeur and bodyguard. Found him not guilty of planning the Cole bombing, found him not guilty in the embassy attacks, found him not guilty for September 11th, 2001, guilty of providing, quote, material support and resources to wit, personnel, comma, himself. Even with a jury of military personnel, unanimous verdict not required, hearsay, coerced testimony admissible, secret evidence, closed proceedings. The Bush-McCain justice system capable only of convicting a man for something he never denied, driving bin Laden's car. McCain saying, quote, unlike Senator Obama, who voted against the Military Commissions Act and favors giving al-Qaeda terrorists direct access to U.S. civilian courts to contest their detention, I recognize that we cannot treat dangerous terrorists captured on the battlefield as we would common criminals. A, it's the courts which decide who is al-Qaeda. B, Obama and the Supreme Court opposed the Military Commissions Act. C, Hamdan was just acquitted of terrorism. D, he was captured not on the battlefield, but at a checkpoint by Afghanis. E, U.S. courts already had a history of hearing the charge on which Hamdan was convicted and could have given the world an open, honorable example of real American justice. Let's bring in Neal Katyal, Hamdan's lead civilian attorney. Professor, good to talk to you after so long.
Thank you very much, Keith.
In a statement of his own today, Senator Obama referred to, quote, dangerous flaws in the system that was used to convict Mr. Hamdan today. Is he right? And if he is, what flaws and why are they dangerous?
Senator Obama is absolutely right on this. I mean, the idea that we're not going to win the war on terror by prosecuting a simple driver. Any legal system that takes 7 years to convict someone simply of being a driver is by definition ineffective. And what Senator McCain has done is tie himself to this failed Bush administration Guantanamo justice system, which has produced really one trial in 7 years. And I think Senator Obama is right to recognize this was a failed experiment. It crashed and burned. And instead of tying himself to the Bush administration's reckless constitutional agenda, he said, look, there's a way to do this swiftly and fairly. It's called our civilian courts. It's called our court-martial system, our proud existing system of military justice. But what these trials are in Guantanamo is nothing like that. I mean, the Bush administration has said the Constitution gives them no rights in these trials, zero. The Supreme Court already rejected that last month, but yet still they forge ahead, and Senator McCain is now forging ahead with this system as well.
Is it good news or is it bad news that this system, even with all the odds stacked and all the evidence stacked too in its favor, that the prosecutors using the system could only get convictions on charges to which Mr. Hamdan had already admitted?
Well, what I think it demonstrates is that even with all the stacked rules and everything that they've been able to do, I mean, the Bush administration wrote all these rules, they handpicked the defendants. This was supposed to be the showcase trial of the Bush administration's against a case against bin Laden's driver. And turned out that's all it was, a case against a driver, a case that crashed and burned on all the serious charges about missiles and 9/11 helping and things like that. And it really does call into question the Bush administration's claim that they are going to prosecute the worst of the worst people at Guantanamo.
All right, what happens now? Obviously, there's an appeals process. What happens next?
Right, so first there'll be sentencing in which even Mr. Hamdan could be convicted for life, even though he's acquitted of all the serious charges. And then afterwards there'll be a military appeals process with rules written by President Bush, which say that that you can't appeal any issue of fact. You can only appeal issues of law.
There are obviously compelling reasons to put even low-level supporters of bin Laden behind bars. But the RAND Corporation, this conservative think tank, just said the other day that the best way to actually kill off a terrorist organization is, ironically enough, considering what we've heard the last 7 years, what it more or less described as the law enforcement approach. Without addressing whether that group of people who need to be behind bars does or should include Mr. Hamdan specifically, can you talk about how even convictions under the military commission system shortchange the victims and all Americans and still wind us hurting us overseas?
Absolutely. I mean, I think Senator Obama's right on this. We've had one conviction in 7 years. This isn't like some great track record of killing off the law enforcement approach. If we want to do this, we should do what Senator Obama's saying, which is use our military system, our existing one, our court-martial system. If we use the military commission system, what happens is what we've seen, which is the entire ire of the world is raised against us. The United Kingdom, all the political parties have signed briefs, including the conservative Tories, saying this system violates international law, violates basic human rights. There's a new book out by Jonathan Mahler that came out yesterday called The Challenge, which is all about how Hamdan's case has shown the world that America is not respecting its international obligations. And so really, I mean, the ultimate question is this. If we had our troops captured and they were sent to a system like the one at Guantanamo, would we be happy? Because that, after all, is going to be what's coming. We're the world's policemen. We have troops all over. And heaven forbid, one day they're going to be captured by the enemy and some dictator or despot is going to try and use this system against them.
Professor Neal Katyal, one of the attorneys representing Salim Hamdan. Many thanks, Neal. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.